welcome to the first episode of Cancelled. I'm your host, Olivia, and I will be talking about some banned books. I will also be interviewing Mrs.Strong on her feelings about banned books. I wanted to talk about banned books today because of how often it has been happening the last few years, and because I feel the books that have been banned have not been given a fair trial. Now, I know there are probably some people out there wondering, what actually is a banned book? Well, according to PEN America, banning a book is taking action on a book based on what happens in it by a person in power that makes a book that used to be accessible inaccessible at that time. Another commonly asked question that I've heard is, why are books banned? Well, according to the First Amendment Museum, books are most often banned due to sexual content, followed pretty closely by offensive language. But they are also banned for many other reasons, such as LGBT content. I will be talking about 3 kids' books today. The books I will be talking about are Tango Makes 3, I Am Jazz, and Where the Wild Things Are. I will be giving synopsises of all 3. The first book I will be talking about is And Tango Makes 3, written by Justin Richardson and Peter Parnell. In the book, there are 2 male penguins named Roy and Silgo who do everything together, including what they're supposed to do with female penguins. They realize they don't have a nest like the other penguins, though. So they try and make an egg out of a rock. And then the keeper gives them their own egg and they raise it. So it has been challenged in many schools because of its homosexual undertones, and parents just felt it was inappropriate for kids to read. The next book I will be discussing is I Am Jazz by Jazz Jennings. This book is about a young trans girl about their trans experience. At first they say that she is not like her other friends. She's transgender, and that growing up she didn't feel like a boy. She felt like a girl. Her parents then take her to the doctor, where she is told that she is transgender. She explains that it took a long time for others to include her and understand, but in the end she didn't mind being different. This book was challenged because of the LGBTQ+ material and the trans main character, leading parents not wanting their kids reading it. Is Where the Wild Things Are, written by Maurice Sendak. This is a very popular kids' book. And so, as many of you may know, the plot of this book basically is that Max is sent to bed without his dinner. He then ends up sailing away to this hidden island where he tames all the wild things and becomes their king. They then party, and then he gets lonely and he goes back home to find his dinner waiting for him. This book was banned because parents felt it was not okay that Max was sent to bed without dinner. They also felt uncomfortable with the supernatural elements of the story. Now that you've heard what the books are about and why they've been banned, I'm going to give you some of my opinions on them. The first book I'm going to talk about and give you my opinions on is I Am Jazz. Personally, after reading the book, I don't believe it should be in classrooms. Not because of the content, but because of the language used. It uses very high level terms, and it feels very heavy-handed, and just feels like it's not really written for kids. It feels like it was written for the adults who are reading to kids. It felt very much to me like a book that a parent would read to their child if they thought their kid might be questioning their gender, not something a teacher would have just sitting in their classroom. The next book I'm going to give you my opinions on, I think, is And Tango Makes 3 Um, I think it's a cute book. And unlike I Am Jazz, felt really high, like, use big words. It felt, and Tango Makes Three felt very kid-friendly, and it felt like a warm, like, very cute way to introduce the idea of LGBTQIA people to young kids, and just in general. It was a very sweet story, and I also just think that it's quite cool because it happened. Those penguins are real. Um, and the last book, Where the Wild Things Are, I think banning it was kind of stupid. To me, banning Where the Wild Things Are doesn't make much sense because the main reason I saw online for why it was banned was the fact that he went to bed without dinner. But that's kind of inconsequential because when he comes back, his mom had left him dinner anyway. And I understand if if a parent thinks like the artwork would scare their kid, maybe, but I don't think it should be removed from schools for that. And just in general, my opinion on banning books is usually not to. But some of the lower level books I can understand. It's if the language is just too much. Overall, my opinion on the books is that most of them they're all pretty cute, for the right in the right situations. But you know, it's just banned books have a lot of baggage to come with them, so it really depends on the situation, who banned them, why they banned them, and stuff like that. That can really just affect how you feel, how you feel about books bannings, and such. Personally, I don't believe most books that are banned should be banned, because a lot of time I feel they're banned over little things, quite like Where the Wild Things Are, where they're banned over the silly little things that most people don't notice. But I just, these books were quite cute, and I would highly recommend if you have younger siblings, you read these books to them, because they're quite cute, and they're pretty short. Now that we have discussed some banned books, I think it would be a good time to introduce our guest, Mrs. Strong. Mrs. Strong is a kindergarten teacher at Hugh Gregg Elementary School and has read plenty of kids' books. So today I'm just going to ask you some questions. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So I was just wondering, what are some of your favorite books?
So some of my favorite books are children's books that are written by the author and illustrator Mo Willems. He writes about his most famous series is about a pigeon, and a lot of them are the pigeon's not allowed to do something.
Oh, I know those.
Yeah, so it has a lot of back and forth interactive, and then he has Piggy and Gerald as another main character of a series.
Oh, I didn't know that was by the same person.
Yes, Mo Willems. He is the best. He has a really high comedy level in his writing. So that's my favorite teacher books to read, but I also like series like Harry Potter and dystopian fantasy.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So my next question was, how do you feel about banned books?
So, I don't agree with banned books just because as a teacher, I feel like it's a little bit of an insult to our profession. I think it should be up to educators because we are professional and we should be treated as so. I mean, they make us go to school to get a master's degree. So you would think that if we feel a book is inappropriate to read in a classroom, that we wouldn't read it. So it's just, to me, it feels like a slap in the face to be like, you're not allowed to read this book. And like some of the books that you shared with me, obviously there was one, and I was like, well, why would I read this to a group of kindergartners? You know, like it talked a lot about our private genital parts and things that as an educator and as a kindergarten teacher, I would never say in my classroom, because I know what the consequences would be. We would all start talking about our private parts, and I don't want that to happen. But then there's other books like Where the Wild Things Are. That's a really popular banned book, and to me, that should be up to my judgment. Like, I try and see it from everyone's point of view, right? So I see they're coming in from, it creates this imaginary world they don't want kids to go there and all those things, and there's scary monsters and they'll eat you and if anything, like those conversations can be learning opportunities for kids. So when you say you are not allowed to read this book, you're actually stopping a lot of imagination and learning moments that can happen in a classroom.
Yeah, I totally agree. So my next question was, do you read banned books personally?
So I do. In the classroom, I don't check to see if they're banned. I'm sure I own a lot of banned books in my classroom library that wouldn't be your typical go-to banned books that talk about topics that aren't technically in my curriculum. Like, there's no, well, that I know, any books about transgender or sexuality, because that's not something I would want to bring up in a kindergarten level. So you won't find any of those books, but like things like Where the Wild Things Are definitely in there somewhere. I don't check to see if it's banned. I just use my best professional judgment
Yeah.
before I read it.
Yeah, I know personally I've probably read a handful of them, but it's
Right.
not like I go out and I'm like, I'm going to read those
Yeah.
just because they're banned.
Right. Definitely on a personal level, I've read a bunch of banned books without knowing they were banned. Like one of the, I think
Some of the Harry Potter
yeah,
books are.
those are banned. There's one, The Handmaid's Tale, I'm sure has to be banned.
Yeah. And Frank's Diary is banned.
Yeah, like there's a lot that wouldn't come to my mind originally when you first think of banned books that I definitely do read. Have here somewhere.
Yeah. Do you believe certain books shouldn't be in schools?
I think it's different at different levels also. So I think in elementary levels, like the books that are available in the library should be books that are appropriate in a lot of different ways. So at K to 5, there probably shouldn't be books that have swear words in them.
Yeah.
So there's things like that I don't think should be in a library or in a school. But as far as it goes with my kids, like with my classroom, I'm kind of in control of what's read. Where in a library where kids check out books, it's a whole different situation. So I think that maybe some books don't really have a place in a school setting. But I don't think they should necessarily be banned. If that makes sense.
Are there certain topics you feel should just not be in like schools or like public places?
Right. So, like I said, it's a little different for kindergarten versus like high school. So in high school, I think topics like, hot topics that can be a little uncomfortable to talk about, like sexuality and transgender and all of that, there's a place for that in the high school, and there's a way higher need for that than there would be in kindergarten and elementary school in general. Definitely early elementary school.
Yes.
That's all I can really speak to because I've only ever taught pre-K and kindergarten. But so there are some topics that I don't think really should be discussed at my level to speak of. But I am very open and I think more flexible, and I use those opportunities as teaching moments. So, for example, like talking about families that have two moms. Like some people would think that that's inappropriate for me to talk about. When to me, I don't think that's inappropriate because I have kids in my classroom who do have two moms. So if I don't talk about their family situation, I'm excluding them from our learning. And then what kind of welcoming environment would I be if I tell kids, no, we're not talking about people who have two moms. Moving on. Because my kids do have two moms. So I think there's certain situations that you can take and run with as a teacher, but then it's kind of like, where do you draw the line also?
Yeah.
But yes, I do think there are some things that shouldn't be talked about, but maybe I'm a little more lenient.
Yeah. It's like with the books we did read, like, and it's also like really depends on like the books themselves,
Exactly,
or like
yeah.
where they're banned, who banned them, and stuff like that.
And why they banned
Like
them.
why they were banned. Because like sometimes, like when I was researching, I saw a book that was banned by accident,
Oh, yeah, that's really weird.
and it's like, how are you doing that?
Yeah, how does that even happen?
How does that happen?
Ugh. Yeah, no.
They thought the author had written some other books or something.
Oh, okay. So they were more about banning the author and
Yeah.
his genre rather than the book. Interesting.
Mhm.
Because authors can have different
Have
writing
very
styles and
different.
genres.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you read banned books like to your class?
So yeah, I definitely have before without knowing they were banned. I keep talking about Where the Wild Things Are, but that's definitely one I've read. And we talk about Harry Potter because I love Harry Potter, and so I don't read Harry Potter to my kindergartners, obviously, but we talk about it a lot. They actually have a high interest in it, I'm guessing from their siblings or parents. But yeah, I've definitely read them in the classroom.
Yeah. So like do you have like any favorite banned books and stuff like that?
Well, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I can definitely throw that one out there as my favorite banned book. As far as children's books go for banned, I try to actually avoid the list so that if I don't know, I'm not doing anyone any
Yeah.
harm, But for a while, like just looking over at my classroom library, I have a handful of Dr. Seuss books, and I know that was really controversial for a while. Not sure if they made the banned list. Some of them might have.
I know I saw Hop on Pop was on a banned list.
Yeah, so I've definitely read that one more
Because I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, it was because a father was like, this encourages violence against fathers.
Oh, really? Heaven forbid.
I know.
Yeah, so I definitely have a lot of... I like Dr. Seuss, obviously, because I teach rhyming at the kindergarten level, and they have a lot of simple one-syllable words that my kids can read. So to get rid of that whole genre would do quite a number to my kids. Yeah, I mean, we can go with Dr. Seuss. He's always a top favorite. I don't know. I would have to look more into it, and definitely I can look, if I look at a list, I can give you my favorite.
You read the books I'm talking
Yes.
about, correct?
Yes.
What are some of your like opinions on them?
So the one, I mean, we've talked about Where the Wild Things Are and how I feel like
Yeah.
there's no way that should be banned. I had to look up why. I have them too here somewhere. But the one that
Is
talks
it
about...
I Am Jazz?
Yes. So the one, I Am Jazz. So where she goes through a whole identity transformation. I'm not sure. I wouldn't read it to my kids, my students, I should say. If it came up, if I taught a later grade, even like 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and I had a student who was going through a crisis like that, I would, maybe not to the whole class, but maybe just
Like
kind of, or even just recommend it to a
like,
parent.
like a personal recommendation.
Right, yeah, because I just feel like, obviously, if they're going through that, that's hard enough on them, and I don't think it's something that should be ignored, because that's just going to make it even worse for them. So I think on a one-to-one personal basis, or even just recommending it to their parents too, to try and get everyone on the same page would be helpful.
I had similar feelings. Because when I first read it, I didn't notice it. but I talked to my mom a little, and like I kind of like reread it, and it just uses these words like the word transgender,
Yep.
and like just the way it talks. I'm like, I don't know if I would read that to a kindergartner.
Yeah, no. And I think that was the one that talked about genitals, right? Like it talked about private parts.
I'm
and
not
some
entirely
sorts.
sure body like that. I can't remember,
Yeah.
but I do know Jazz does go to a doctor
Yeah.
at one point.
Right. So maybe that's where I'm thinking about it, but yeah, that's a hard one. The word transgender, I think, would be a hard one for my 5-year-olds to really comprehend. I think that's probably where the other side is coming from, saying that we're like indoctrinating kids and pushing it down their throat, like putting it right in their face so they can't ignore it. Like that, I could see where they'd have a foot to stand on if we were reading books like that to 5-year-olds. I mean, I can't say we're not. I don't read books like that because it opens up a lot of doors that I'm not prepared to answer.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I quite liked And Tango Makes Three, though.
Yeah. Oh, Tango Makes Three with the penguins.
Yeah.
Okay, that was so cute. So that was one where I would read that one because that talked about having 2 male figures as their father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so 2 male penguins they adopt. Tango?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
They adopt the egg and then they hatch it.
Yes. So I thought that was so sweet. And to me, it's hard to find books that are age appropriate for this level that discuss things like having 2 dads at home or having gay family members. And so I actually last year had a student whose parent was transgender. And so we were kind of nervous when I found out, like, how much do they know about it? Are they going to ask me questions about it? Because they're 5, and I'm one of their trusted adults, so they would come to me. So it's like, what if they ask me? Because we do a family unit in kindergarten for social studies, so it's kind of like when we're drawing our family portraits and we're discussing different family members, are they going to, say in front of the class, like, well, my dad used to be a girl, but now he's a boy. And I was waiting for it, and I was ready, and I was looking up books at the time, like children's books that would kind of not just come out and say transgender like the Jazz book did, but have a way to say, like, it's okay to have 2 dads. Like, everyone's family is different, and even being adopted like Tango is. Right? That's his name, Tango?
Yes, Tango's the egg.
Yes. So, and even just that whole situation of being adopted, too, is another hard topic to find in children's books that's appropriate for this age group. So I did really like that one.
I totally understand like the adopted one too.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to find even like higher books that even mention it.
Right. And I think some people are afraid to talk about things like that. Coming from like a really innocent point of view, like they're afraid to say the wrong thing, like they don't want to get the kid the wrong impression or tell them the wrong information and make things worse. Like I have a student this year whose mom passed away shortly after he was born, so that was a hard one to navigate. And they'd come in from the playground, they're like, he says his mom died. I'm like, oh my God. Well, his mom did die. So it was, we have to stop and have those conversations. And I bet you some of the books that are about moms, people not having moms, would be on the ban list. Just because that's a hard conversation that some families believe we shouldn't be having as teachers in the classroom. But they also don't have 5-year-olds coming to them saying, my mom died. So I'd like to see how they deal with that.
Thank you for your time and perspective. Now we will be going to our last section and ending off this episode. Thank you again to Mrs. Strong for your amazing insight. Today, I have learned that books may be banned for multiple reasons, and that there may be different beliefs and feelings on banned books. Make sure to come back next time for some higher level reads. Thank you all so much for listening. Bye!